This is just a random comment video. It's actually quite a sad one for me, and it's quite momentous because I have been ostracized from the left. That's right, I'm no longer on the left because I had an opinion on Twitter that did not conform to the left-wing orthodoxy, and some people did not like what I said. They were angry at me, and I was eaten. They say that the left often eats itself. Well, I was eaten by the left, and now I'm a social outcast, and I have many grievances with the left now. I was excommunicated from the orthodoxy of the hard, radical, communist left, I think it is. That's right, now I have to decide what I believe again. It's a shame this has happened. Actually, this is just in regards to a news story about a Florida school teacher who was exposed as a white nationalist podcaster by the Huffington Post. They wrote an article, exclusive, Florida public school teacher has a white nationalist podcast. Diana Voletich suggests Muslims be eradicated from the earth, believes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and teaches middle school social studies. Basically, in this article, the Huffington Post found out a bunch of information about a Florida public school teacher and wrote an article about stuff she'd been saying and doing outside the class, and her boasting about teaching things in the class. It says here, in the same episode, Voletich boasted about bringing her white nationalist beliefs into the classroom and hiding her ideology from administrators. She said that when parents complained to the school's principal about how she's injecting political bias into the classroom, Voletich lied to the principal and said it was not true. She believed me and backed off, she said. Voletich also agreed with her guest's assertion that more white supremacists need to infiltrate public schools and become teachers. They don't have to be vocal about their views, but get in there, her guest said. Be more covert and just start taking over these places. Right, Voletich said. I'm absolutely one of them. And then they just have a variety of tweets. For example, it isn't supremacist or hateful to prefer your own people over others, saying that confronting racism in classrooms is bullshit, white privilege is bullshit, systemic racism and white privilege aren't real, etc. And she ended up deleting her Facebook and Twitter accounts. Now, when I saw this story, I reacted to it on Twitter, and I said, I disagree with this actually, trying to get people fired for things they believe outside of their job, unless you can prove she teaches this stuff at her school. I honestly think this is wrong, and she should be left alone, with that important caveat. Now, the thing about when I tweet is I often continue talking. So there's never enough space to say everything you want in one tweet, and I think as a self-contained tweet, that would give the impression that I thought, you know, anything she does or says outside of her job should never have an impact on her job, and that's actually not true. That's not something I think. And I clarified a little more on that one tweet later. I said, still, it's tricky. Maybe she teaches some minority students racistly, but there should be oversight for that. They should assess teacher performance. If her other views don't impact her teaching, let her go, unless there's community outcry. I disagree with media driving that, though. Now, a lot of people got pretty angry at me, I don't know, disappointed, annoyed. I had tons of people being like, bad take, Tim, bad take. White nationalists must be fired. You must root them out. She's pretending not to be a racist, but she's teaching racist stuff in the class. She's even saying that, what a racist bitch. Some people accused me of hand-wringing and said that I was trying to defend or protect this woman, which I don't really understand, because why would I care about this woman losing her job, you know, if she is a racist, if she's doing racist things, going around being racist? I don't understand why I would be sad and why I would do hand-wringing about that. So it was very strange. Some of the commenters, because they don't quite get what you mean and where you're coming from, they try to attribute things to you that you don't think, and there was a lot of people saying that I seemed so concerned about this Nazi being fired. Maybe it's because you can't read emotion through text form. Because if they could, they would see, no, it's got nothing to do with any emotion about anything. This is actually more to do with my perceptions around the role of media and people's private lives, like, you know, small-time people. And of course, we'll get into, you know, oh, being a teacher is not a small-time thing, etc. I understand. There's many arguments flying around. So let me try to clarify. My entire point was based around something which other people seem a lot more sure of, and that is people's ability to compartmentalize certain things they believe with their role or their job or what they do. And another thing, which is how much does something somebody says, like her boasting, oh, I put white supremacy into my classes, the principal believed me, haha. How much does that reflect something that actually happened and is true, and how much reflects just her being a moron and boasting and trying to impress somebody and trying to show off to her audience that she doesn't give a fuck? What white supremacy ideology was she trying to put into her class? I'd be very curious about that. And as I said, a lot of people commenting on it were a lot more sure than me. They were like, no, You cannot compartmentalize white nationalism and racism from your job, particularly for a teacher. It's just not possible. It's not something you can do. It is impossible that she could teach a class fairly. And if she thinks that some of the students are less than the other students, no, it's a no-go. And to that, I would say, maybe you're right. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know for sure. I feel like that's a difficult thing to know. I don't know how people know that exactly. Maybe they just know more about white nationalists than me. Maybe white nationalists, white supremacists and stuff, they can never just be foolish and naive. They are just uniformly, monolithically the same in terms of forethought, in terms of purposefulness, in terms of what they're doing. In which case, yeah, I'm wrong then, but I just don't know that for sure. And the only reason that I was hand-wringing over the situation is because if something goes out in the media like that and becomes super public, it's going to go to the highest possible level of judgment, and everybody's going to know about that person. But is that going to be the most fair to that individual? And I know people are saying, you fucking liberal scum, that person's a Nazi, like they don't need any fairness at all. But yeah, how Nazi are they in their everyday life and what they do in their job, etc. I feel like I would want to know about that. And I think just wanting to know more means that I love white nationalists teaching in schools, and I'm really sad about the media doing anything. No, I just think it's like, should the media be going around every single school finding anybody who's got sort of like white supremacist beliefs in some fashion and outing them to the entire world and them being shamed out of that community? And I know some people say, yes, they should. And if that's your opinion, more power to you. I just don't know if I can commit to that level of surety. They say yes, and I say, I don't know. I don't know how ethical it is entirely. And I added that caveat of their reputation will be ruined in the community. And I didn't say wrongfully. If she is doing all this Nazi shit and her community finds out, that's life. But I kind of feel like that should be contained to the people in that situation, her administration, her community, her students. That can involve a huge range of people, but not necessarily going to massive public outcry about certain individuals. I think these kinds of things should be brought to the attention of their employers and also complaints taken seriously. And you could sit down with this person and you could check to see how they were treating minority students in their class. You could interview their students, say, how do they treat you? What do they teach? Have a look at what they're teaching, and then see how they mark the minority students' work versus the minority students' actual work. Then you'd clearly be able to see she's being unfair on this student. It must be because she's a fucking racist. You can't do that. You're fired. And that would be perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable. And I just think it would be more optimal than a constant public outcry, which is not necessarily going to always be fair or accurate or give the lay of the situation. And this situation reminds me a lot of a different one that involved a progressive teacher. She said in a tweet that she uses the progressive stack to teach in her lessons, so she calls on black students first. And a whole bunch of people, including Jordan Peterson, were like, fire her, she's a racist. She discriminates against white students. And I defended her. I said, you don't know that for sure. And they said, we've got the tweet. There is a tweet that says it. She's a fucking racist. And I said, but you don't know how she actually treats white students in her class. Calling on black students and minority students, etc. first is not a big deal, so long as you do get to the white students. If you never get to any white students, yeah, that's discrimination. You can't do that. But if you just decide to make the order so that you get to the, minority students first, so you get to the white people more towards the end, who gives a shit? So, so long as they get their voice, it doesn't matter. But a lot of people are saying she's racist and fire her. And I was fighting for a long time with righties and conservatives about that one as well. But some people have brought up, this is different. This is a progressive woman using the progressive stack. She's not like a Nazi and she's not like a racist. While that may be the case, this goes to my point about the media. Do you think that, Johnny Q Public is really going to understand all the time that distinction between like, this is a actual real bad person, a Nazi person, this progressive person is not so bad? No, they're not going to get that because a lot of people in society are like conservatives, so they're just going to go batshit insane and they're going to say, fire her and off with her head and all this kind of thing. I think the left has more substance to be concerned about white supremacists, etc. than the snowflake conservatives have to be concerned about progressives using the progressive stack. But I do think the kind of style of knee-jerk anger as opposed to advocating for gathering information and actually trying to find out what you can about the situation, going from 0 to 100 instantly, is something I can equate in these two situations. So I think I'm kind of consistent about this across the board. Somebody said, what if it was like an Islamist Muslim person who in their spare time is like talking about how evil the West is and, we've got to have Islam. I'd feel exactly the same, unless they were advocating for violence or something. I think that would be a definite red flag if they were like stockpiling weapons or something. Yeah, I mean, that's no good. They're dangerous. They're a danger. They're not just a bigot, and they're not just an idiot who may or may not be doing that in their job. They're dangerous. But if they were just a bigot or idiot who may or may not be doing that in their job, I'd say the same thing. I'd say find out what the situation is. Don't necessarily play that out in the media, because it may not necessarily be fair. It could well be, but it may not. So for me, it's just I have a consistent view across the board, I think. Somebody said that I was approaching this from an immense place of privilege because I will never have to experience having like a racist teacher, a white nationalist person in my class, and it will never impact me, and I will never have to face the ramifications of that. And to that I say, yes, I think you're entirely absolutely correct, and I respect that opinion. I've never pretended to be a person who is not privileged, and that could well change my point of view on that. It is possible that opinions and views can come from a place of privilege. Good point. Cool. I did think I'm just some privileged person who had a privileged upbringing giving a privileged liberal opinion, which you can dismiss if you want. Go right ahead. Somebody was saying to me today that I'm dismissive of trans people and dismissive of people of color and etc. They said they'd seen me being condescending to people. But I think, I understand that I should always be nice to trans people and people of color and so forth, even if they're being really rude to me. But I feel as a flawed human being, human interaction doesn't really work out that way for me. It'll often be like, I'll put out an opinion of some kind, and then someone will come along and say, "You're such an idiot, you privileged fucking idiot moron. You don't know what the hell you're talking about." And I'll say, "Well, fuck you too." Yeah, they were really hostile and rude. If they were trans or something, that's kind of incidental to the whole situation. They were just being really rude to me, so I was rude to them. And I don't know if I can vet people and be like, "Oh, whoops. Okay, this trans person who's being really rude to me is trans, so..." Oh, I understand. Yes, I am stupid. Thank you. I just don't think that things work that way. If you ever see me dismiss the experience of a, non-binary person of color, woman, whatever, dismiss their experience in a condescending way, for no particular reason except out of being a prick, then please drag me over the fucking fire. But if a person of color who is non-binary in a wheelchair says something rude to me, particularly on Twitter, am I going to say something rude back? Am I going to be condescending? Probably, yes, I will be. And that doesn't mean that I don't respect people in wheelchairs who are non-binary and people of color. It means I don't respect the way that person talked to me. And I feel like that's just a human interaction thing. People really read into things so much online, and that is why I'm no longer on the left. I am now a classical... which is something like classical liberals are meant to be on the left, so I couldn't be one of them. Anyways, that's just my opinion on that. Feel free to tell me how incredibly stupid and wrong I am in the comment section. Cheers. Have a lovely day.